It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine indeed. Welcome once again to our live show here every Sunday night at 9 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in New York, and work it out yourselves for everywhere else. But we've got loads of Star Wars news to discuss this week. So what have we got coming up on tonight's show? First up, we're going to be talking about the creator. John Jackson Miller is coming back to Star Wars literature. Hasbro have been releasing Black Series Ahsoka Tano and HK-87 Assassin Droid. We've got news about the Ahsoka mid-season fan celebration event. And we'll be checking out all the latest news from Galaxy's Edge and Star Tours as Hera Syndulla and Ahsoka arrive on the scene. D23 is promising something special for 2024. We'll be discussing what that could be. Disney are also planning an Indiana Jones theme experience for Animal Kingdom. We'll be discussing that as well. A once lost Star Wars X-Wing fighter is going up for auction. 400,000, a little bit out of my price range, but we'll be checking that out. And last but not least, we'll be taking an in-depth review of Ahsoka Part 4, Fallen Jedi, which was quite an episode indeed. So to discuss that and much, much more from Fantatrax.com, Sander, welcome to the show.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for having me.
How's your week been?
Chaotic. I mean, still reeling from Ahsoka, obviously, and the big news of the D23 destination that made me very happy.
Yeah. And of course, you had your in-depth guide as well to Ahsoka Part 4. So we'll be, I imagine, discussing a lot of that as we get stuck into reviewing the show towards the end of the show as well. But let's get straight into the news because there's quite a bit to cover this week. And first up, the creator, which is coming from Rogue One director Gareth Edwards, and is getting a huge push from ILM, are really promoting this heavier than I've ever seen them anything that they've worked on previously before. And there's a new clip come out this week in which we can run in the background whilst we discuss it. But it's quite exciting to see something new coming from Gareth. I loved Rogue One and his work on that, and I enjoyed some of his previous work as well. So it's great to see him back on the big screen. And there's just something tells me this is going to be a little bit special. What's your kind of thoughts of his? Has the creator publicity reached you?
Well, I have to admit, I mean, if not for Fantatrax, I must have missed most of the clips and trailers and little promotion things about this new movie that is coming. Gareth Edwards was, for me, the the standout in the Disney era when it comes to the movies with Rogue One. It's easily the best movie for me
Yeah,
compared to Solo and the sequels. So yeah, I am quite curious about it. I'm not quite sure what to make of the story yet, based on just the few small clips that we've seen. I mean, it's basically I think the very first quarter of the movie or something like that. So you really don't have any clue what's going to happen next,
yeah,
as
yeah.
far as I know. Anyway, I mean, maybe you know a bit more than I
No,
do, but
it's they've kind of kept quite a lid on the plot, and they've kind of just been teasing little elements here and there. So it's going to be one of these films I think that's going to hit the cinema. It's going to be a little bit of a mystery, and I think it could be a surprise hit.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And especially if they are keeping such a tight lid on the story elements, and they just show the world building. And yeah, the world building so far looks amazing. I mean, the footage that we've seen the today in the new clip, I mean, it looks stunning, really.
Yeah,
So colorful and everything. So yeah, I think the world building part of the movie will be great.
yeah, and it'd be interesting if it's a success, what kind of impact it has on Gareth Edwards' career as well, because he kind of admittedly he needed a break and to step away a bit after Rogue One. So um, good to see him back on the big screen. So I'm looking forward to it, and I imagine as the clock ticks down to release, we'll find out a little bit more as well about the film.
Yeah, because when is the release exactly?
It's the 20, I think it's the 29th. Is it the 29th of September? Rings a bell. Certainly, it's it's about another 3 weeks away, I think.
Yeah, quite soon already.
Yeah. Bruce Brown there in the comments saying it looks like a good movie and he can't wait to see it as well. Um,
Yeah.
Something that we're all going to be a little bit more familiar with on the news front. John Jackson Miller's back in Star Wars literature. And let's get rid of that movie clip that keeps playing in the background. There we go. What have I done? Pressed the wrong button. Let's try again. What have we done? What have we done? Here we go. Let's go back here.
Luckily we aren't live, right?
No, we're not
we
live.
Can,
Not live at all.
we can cut.
Right. I've lost my connection. Let me add my connection back up. Here's we'll do technology live. Let's see if it works. Let's see if we can get my link back. Here we go. Here we go.
There we go.
We're building technology live in the show. Here we go. John Jackson Miller, he's back with the Living Force. I loved John Jackson's Miller's work in the past, and so I'm excited to see him back doing Star Wars. And I'm not so sure if I'm excited about this project in particular, but kind of proven in the past that he often proves me wrong with the topics that he chooses. And so Random House are going to have this out. I think it's next April. And are you excited to see him back writing Star Wars?
Oh, very much, very much. I mean, Kenobi is still one of my favorite novels in the Legend area.
Yeah.
A New Dawn was the perfect prequel, really, to Rebels, how Kanan and Hera met. So yeah, as a writer, he is a big deal for me. Really exciting. And the subject matter. I mean, I became a fan with the Phantom Menace. And I was always disappointed that Dark Horse Comics cancelled and never released their 12-issue comic series about the Jedi Council, and each member was supposed to get a one-shot comic.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was always disappointed that that never happened. And, well, this is basically the next best thing, really.
I think we ended up, if I remember, we got one or two under the Jedi title. But more central characters like Mace Windu, and then they did like a Jedi Council Acts of War, wasn't it? I think
Jedi Council Acts of War. Yes, that's I think also one of the things that spun off and maybe reused some of the old ideas. And I
Yeah,
think, yeah.
but
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting that they've picked to sort of focus on these characters, as you said, because they're for having prominent positions in the film. Um, in terms of their role, not necessarily how often they're in the film, but prominent characters that haven't really been investigated too much, even in Legends, let alone in canon.
well, yeah, and that's why a book like this can only be good. I mean, I do wonder how. I mean, even if it's say 400 or whatever pages, that he has to cram in 12 characters. I mean, and obviously Yoda and Mace Windu will get more screen time than even Peel probably, but those are the characters I'm most excited about. Even Peel, Eat Koth, Jerial Poof, Opporensis. I mean, especially Opporensis. I mean, he's been shoved aside quite a few times already when it comes to stories. I mean, he was supposed to get his own arc also in the Clone Wars. So he's always been one of those characters that's a bit left out, but really should get a chance to shine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, I would actually even love to have John Jackson Miller back doing Star Wars comics as well. It would be nice to have it, maybe a tie-in series along with this as well. So fingers crossed,
Oh,
we
yeah.
may get something like that.
Well, it would only sell a lot of comics, so why not do it?
Yeah. He
I mean,
mentions that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi are going to be part of it as well. Would you have preferred it to not feature them? I noticed that they're not on the cover, so maybe they're not central characters.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they already explained some of the troubles between the Council and Qui Gon, so it's not like they have to redo that all over again.
Yeah.
But I can imagine they will pop in for at least a chapter or two,
Yeah.
maybe to bookend the story or something like that. But it's not like they're needed anyway, to me.
No, no, I kind of agree with you there. Um, it's it's an interesting one. I don't know what to make of it. I was when I saw the announcement, I was excited he was back. I wasn't so excited, maybe with the concept. And I don't know if it's a. I'm not against a focus on these characters. I'm struggling a little bit outside of the High Republic to understand what Star Wars literature is trying to achieve at the moment, what story it's trying to tell. It seems to just be picking little bits and pieces here and there, and it doesn't have sort of this continuous story that we kind of had under the sort of Legends, where you felt that the story was being continuously built upon a little bit. So they're going back to a year before the Phantom Menace, so hopefully it ties in a little bit with the film, but I don't know what the objective is really, I guess is.
Well, I'm also wondering if it maybe relates somehow to the taxation and the Trade Federation rising up and stuff like that,
Yeah,
because we haven't seen that for a while either in the new canon. I mean, the wonderful Cloak of Deception that did the trick back then for in Legends, but
that is very true. We've also got toy news this week as well, tying in with Ahsoka, coming from Hasbro. We have their carbonized 2 packs, Ahsoka Tano and the HK-87 Assassin Droid. Are you much of a action figure collector?
oh, yes, but the original 375 size, not
Okay, yeah.
the 6 inch at all. I
No,
mean, yeah, you can barely see it behind me because it's so blurry, but uh, to the right of me, there's my whole collection of Hasbro action figures.
yeah,
A good chunk of it complete already, but yeah, so these new figures, they look great, and I can imagine the 6-inch collectors will be happy with them.
Yeah,
I will just wait until they get resized and
yeah,
put on a vintage collection
yeah.
card.
And they're going to be available exclusively at Amazon as well for those of us picking them up. Sticking on the Ahsoka news, it's been announced that there's going to be fan celebration events this coming week, celebrating Part 5 of the series London, and it's going to be across 10 screens around America. I know that E-Magazine are doing a screening in the UK, but there seems to be a lack of events around the rest of the world, so it's always frustrating, I think, when they elect to do something like this and it's not accessible to the majority of fans, I think.
Yep, and as someone who's from the Netherlands, I'm a bit used to it by now, unfortunately, because the last real big event that I can remember, besides the movie premieres, was for the Clone Wars for the movie, which technically is also a premiere. So,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's a shame that it doesn't happen that much in other countries. I mean, and it ma- and it makes me wonder. I mean, Star Wars is big in other countries as well. I mean,
yeah.
probably less so in the Netherlands, but I mean, we have France, we have Spain. I mean, it's all big there, Star
I
Wars.
kind of,
So
I
I'm like,
kind of get the
why not?
feeling, yeah, I kind of get the feeling it was like a last minute idea, probably to try and get promotion against what's going on with the strike. They don't have access to the creators and the actors trying to generate publicity, because I did note that the events are free to attend, which makes me think there's probably a licensing issue in terms of getting it into cinemas. And I wonder if E-Magazine effectively approached them to try and bring the event to the UK, purely on the basis that it wasn't announced alongside the initial 10 in America. So I do wonder if there's been a little bit of a scramble to kind of trying to pull this together, because it's kind of an unusual thing to do for a TV series, is to mid-season take an episode, which, yes, we've had a fantastic tease at the end of Part 4, which we'll get to later on in the show, but we don't know what makes Episode 5 more special than any other episode to justify it heading to the cinema. We've heard rumours and so on. Dave Filoni's at the helm of it. So I wonder if this is more a publicity attempt than it is necessarily
Yeah.
really a specifically thought of fan event.
I'm thinking you hit the head on the nail there. I mean, as you said, the strike is still going on and probably will be for some time still. And premieres normally are indeed for the first 2 episodes. So,
Yeah, but
I can remember those mole episodes that we have gotten. They also got a special preview at Celebration, and those were mid-season breaks, I believe.
okay,
And basically, this fifth episode is also mid-season breakish. So maybe they try to justify it like that, but I think it's just for the publicity, as you said. Normally they ask money for it, for movie tickets and stuff like that, and that's probably also why a cinema in the Netherlands isn't even interested in doing it, because if they can't sell tickets, so why waste the time anyway? Because
yeah. It needs
unless they will,
unless you're given a clear explanation as to why you really want to put this episode in the cinema for free and what's the back end benefit. I could understand if it was connected because there's a movie coming out next month that's connected to this episode or something like that. You could understand a cinema chain getting invested in it then, but I think it's a hard sell to try and
yeah,
get someone to grab hold of it. So
yeah. Maybe if they had done some exclusive, like a poster or popcorn bucket that you can get or something like that.
yeah,
then maybe it would have been a little bit more interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll wait and see.
but
Um,
it's still nice for all of you who can go. I mean, I'm happy for you all because I know a few of us from Fanta Tracks got the tickets already. So
yeah,
uh,
not me, not me,
not you.
not me.
Shame on you.
Um, Galaxy's
No.
Edge news next. General Hera Syndulla has debuted at Disneyland Resort, um, which is kind of interesting because obviously Galaxy's Edge is set in a very particular um, timeline, which I think doesn't necessarily help it. I think it was a nice idea at the start, but I kind of think it maybe limits what they could do there. Um, but yeah, interesting that they've got Hera coming to Disneyland Resort. And on top of that, they also announced that next spring Ahsoka is going to be part of Star Tours. Not particularly telling us how they're going to integrate her, but you would imagine she's going to be in one of the cutscenes. Anybody that replaces a droid in Star Tours works for me.
Yeah, well, Star Tours has always been my to go to Star Wars niche
Yeah,
aspect, really. I mean, I love the prequels, I love everything, really, but Star Tours always has been a little bit special to me. So, yeah, I'm also quite curious to see how they will put in Ahsoka. I mean, maybe the speeder will somehow find its way to the new galaxy, maybe.
yeah.
I mean, I can imagine that will be a cool change for the hyperspace effect. It just shakes harder and harder because you have to go faster and further. So maybe it hits right.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Uh, or yeah, what else do we have? I mean, in terms of interesting planets, we haven't seen anything really. So
I
it's
wondered if they're
probably
thinking of a trip to Lothal, or could it be landing amongst the Rebel fleet, Home One?
that would be amazing. I mean, and it wouldn't be that much of a change because the whole one with Ekbar is already in Star Tours.
Yeah,
So if they just pulled cameras a bit further behind and show the new ships, then you would be done already. But
yeah,
or maybe it will enter that special place at the end of episode 4, that we follow the Purgle into a portal to that place.
yeah.
Who knows? Who
That
knows?
would
But
be that would be something else if you had the Purgles appear in Star Tours. I think that would be interesting. It feels
I
like it's a
know.
good opportunity to add in some other new locations as well, um, from the sequel trilogy as well. I think would be interesting. I know they've added some new elements. It's been a while since I was on it. The last time I was on it, we did it maybe 5 or 6 times in a row. Kept going round and queuing again. We were determined to appear in Hoth. Never got it once. Never went to Hoth once. It never works out how you want it to be.
Nope. Now, the last time I went on Star Tours was actually 3 days ago at Disneyland Paris.
Yeah,
So, and I think I've seen all the combinations that are possible by now. With the Anaheim trip that I took last year, so I think I've seen them all. But yeah,
interesting. Interesting. Always interesting when there's a refresh, I think.
it is. It is. And well, and as you said about Galaxy's Edge, I mean, you are absolutely right. I mean, the sequel trilogy. I mean, regardless of what we all think of it, it's always has been a terrible idea to me that they've put Galaxy's Edge in one specific era alone.
Yeah,
I mean, they just should have kept it standard, general, and then they can basically have a free reign with it and have one day have Boba Fett arrive there, and the other day Ahsoka, and
I think when they originally had the concept, it was going to be a completely immersive experience, and it's
Yes,
slowly been kind of watered down a little bit because they realised that that was kind of unachievable. And I think um, if if it had been a completely immersive experience, then you'd have to lock it into a particular timeline. Fair enough.
yes.
But when it's not a completely immersive experience, would you be particularly upset if you had a young Han Solo in one corner and you rounded the other corner and you saw Kylo Ren? I don't think so. I think you'd just be enjoying the fact you were in a Star Wars themed land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the same thing for me. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the sequels, but when I see the Millennium Falcon in Batuu, I mean, I had the same reaction everyone had. We cry, and I wasn't even paying attention to whatever dish was on it at the time. I mean, it's still the bloody Falcon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Um, talking about theme parks, we'll jump ahead to this story. Indiana Jones um, is going to be coming, or they're promising an Indiana Jones themed experience coming to Animal Kingdom um, alongside Encanto. They're going to be turning Dino Land into tropical Americas kind of themed area. Although it has to be said that this time last year they announced a redevelopment from Dino Land and it was completely a different design from this one. So I'm not putting my money on this happening yet. And I'm also a little bit puzzled as to how do you get Indiana Jones into an animal themed kind of area in terms of Animal Kingdom. I can get it. I can get it. Completely see it happening in terms of if you wanted it tropical America. So I could totally see Indiana Jones fitting in, but I don't see where the Animal Kingdom element comes from.
that would be a difficult one. Yes. Um, I mean, Animal Kingdom is a great park. It nicely structured indeed around animals. I mean, they even have done some mythical creatures like the Yeti.
Yeah.
It is in one of the rides. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe they find a nice mythical beast and
That's a good
have him
idea.
explore something like that. I mean, originally the plan for Animal Kingdom also was to have a special section just for mythical creatures.
Okay.
Because well, when you are at the entrance, you have all those murals of animals above the gates. One of them is not a phoenix, not a unicorn, but something like
Yeah.
that. And that never happens really because it was just grounded in normal creatures.
See, that's a
So I'm
better idea
thinking,
than I had because the only idea I had was that you just dump a load of snakes on people.
oh, snakes! Why does it have to be snakes?
Yeah. But yeah, it's great that they're actually going to do something with Indiana Jones, I think, because I kind of had this fear with Dial of Destiny. It completely flopped at the box office. I don't think there's any other way to describe it than that. I enjoyed the film for what it was. It's
Oh
always
yes.
great to see Harrison on the big screen anyway. Um, but yeah, so I'm glad that the franchise is going to move forward in some direction, one way or the other.
Well, yeah. Yeah, basically what you said. I mean, Indiana Jones is one of the other biggest, nicest franchises from Lucasfilm. So yeah, of course we are partial to it, and
Yeah,
yeah, and as you said, I mean, it fits with the Americas ID. There are maybe, yeah, but it would also depend on what kind of experience we would get. I mean, would it be a walk on? Would it be a coaster? Would it be a dark ride? Or, I mean, if it's just a coaster, I mean, we have a coaster here in Paris that basically they could just put something like that in there and just forget all about the animal themed aspect of it and just have a fun coaster in a temple and done.
yeah, definitely. Um, Up next in the news front, something interesting. I wonder what the people watching at home think of this as well, what they think could be coming next year. But Disney have announced that the next D23 event will no longer just be an expo, but it'll be a Disney fan event like no other, and it'll take place in Anaheim, 9th through 11th, 2024. They're promising to take things to a whole new level, and they've set up a website. There's nothing really there at the moment, but it's called ultimatefanevent.d23.com, and waiting for more details to be revealed. But you know, they have on their promotion there got Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. So you kind of feel it's going to be heavily themed around Disney Plus, because that's effectively their 5 zones of Disney Plus on there as well. So it's interesting. What do you think the expo is now going to be, this ultimate fan event? What do you think is the inspiration or the logic behind this kind of promoting it in a slightly different way?
I do, but they better not forget the parks. I mean, normally D23 always had a nice element also about the parks and stuff like that. But that is more destination than D23, like we had last few days. As you said, this looks like it will be just for Disney Plus and those kind of announcements, which will be fine by me. I mean, we have plenty of news content that we are waiting to get news on anyway. I mean, there are still plenty of Marvel movies that they can promote. I mean, the new Disney movies coming out. So, yeah, I mean, D23 is a convention that I've wanted to visit before, and I'm seriously considering going now.
Yeah,
but I do want to.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking exactly the same. And I wonder if that's what they're really just trying to do. Are they just trying to rebrand it away from being classic Disney to try and encourage more people from the Marvel franchise and more people from the Star Wars franchises to want to attend the likes of a D23?
Yeah.
Are they trying to make the whole D23 membership thing cover a wider scope of their fan base? Because it kind of has always kind of felt to me that D23 membership is for people that like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and that's probably very harsh, but I've never considered joining it. I don't know if you ever have.
Well, I have, because one of my many other fandoms that I like are Donald Duck and everything with Duck's Pet. I mean,
yeah.
A few years ago for DuckTales, they had a photo up that it looks like you're diving into the money bin from Scrooge. I'm like, ooh, I would have loved to have done that.
But yeah, I just wonder if it's kind of like a almost rebrand attempt without changing anything too much, but just to give it like a fresh
would be wise.
To it. Yeah, just to make people think a little bit more. You know, this is an event I would kind of like to go to, because I've always had this idea of I'd like to do a D23, but I've also had this thought that I wouldn't be able to cope with the Disney sugar coatiness of the whole event.
Well, then this one does sounds better for you then, if it's.
Yeah. And it's just generated that kind of feeling inside me without them announcing anything. So it's maybe already working in terms of this idea of it's going to be different.
Yeah. Well, I will join you then. I mean,
yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
It's a little bit more affordable. It's a little bit more affordable than our next news item, because the next news item is a once lost X-Wing fighter up for auction, an ILM model from the collection of Greg Jean. It's going up for sale through Heritage Auctions on October the 14th to the 15th in Dallas. Bidding's going to start at $400,000, and bit outside my price range. I will say to people that my birthday is October the 23rd, so if anyone wants to give me a lavish gift, I won't say no. But yeah, it's a fascinating story behind this one. It's always interesting to get the backstory and the provenance of these kind of items and how they come to market. and I've enjoyed reading a little bit about it. But £400,000, that's just crazy money, isn't it? It's like, that's kind of museum money. That's not individual collector money, I kind of feel.
Not at all, no. And that's basically also then my main worry. Who managed to buy it, and what will happen with it?
Yeah.
I mean, to quote Indiana Jones, this belongs in a museum.
That's the kind of thing I always kind of feel with these items, that they go up for auction. It's fascinating to see them, but then they kind of disappear. And
I know. Unless Gus Lopez buys it.
Yeah.
I mean, he often shares the stuff that he has gotten, and it's always amazing to see whatever he managed to get.
Yeah.
But this really should belong in the George Lucas Museum when it opens.
There's Paul McHugh mentioned in the comments just about D23, and it's a great point that the Honda Centre holds 20,000 seats. So if they were to drop a new trailer, that would be pretty amazing.
Oh,
that would be some reaction, I think.
that would be indeed. I mean, how often are those the celebration stages? In comparison,
I think about 6,000 being the largest, I think.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah, then it will be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I always remember seeing the trailer for Force Awakens, the infamous "We're home" moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
and I
remember
was
that well.
just already in one of the smaller streaming stages, so like just a few hundred of people, and they went nuts already. I
I
mean,
always remember. I don't know why, but the one that kind of I always remember was Rogue One, and I don't know if I can remember it because it was kind of like a haunting trailer that told you nothing, and then absolutely nothing from that trailer's anything remotely like anything in the movie either. And,
No.
So it was fascinating, but I think it was the first time that they were stepping outside of their comfort zone and doing something different with Star Wars, other than the Skywalker saga storylines. So I think that's what kind of made it memorable for me as well. And of course, that was also the day where we would have had the Boba Fett movie announcement as well, when it kind of got canned the night before.
Yeah.
So that was always an interesting day for covering the news in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It would be interesting next year in August what they would have to. I'm just Elliot Marsh there in the comments also mentioned he was there in the celebration stage for Chewie We're Home. I think that was just a great moment for fandom. Whether people ended up enjoying the movie and the trilogy, I think people can always appreciate just that fandom moment. I think of Han and Chewie back up on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
The August 2024, I don't know what they would have to show us. I'm getting a little, we're supposed to get Skeleton Crew at the end of this year. It kind of feels like that's not happening. It's almost, without ever being officially confirmed, I think everybody's kind of accepting we're not going to see that this year. And it's kind of getting pushed into an undetermined window next year. Mando Season 4 is not going to be happening anytime soon because of the strikes.
Exactly. I mean, it still has to be filmed and everything. So
yeah,
and then
Andor Season 2 is pretty much in the same state where they've still got elements of that left to shoot, and they weren't shooting it episode by episode. They were filming it out of sequence. So I don't even think they could bring us part of a season of that. Acolyte had finished filming, but it obviously has to go all the way through post, and if you don't have your showrunner involved, how much of the post can you do without the showrunner being involved? So you kind of feel the first half of next year could be pretty much void of Star Wars, unless there's something in the animation realm where they can still be working at the moment.
We have a Droid story.
Yeah, although that's gone very quiet on that front. It's been
true.
Beyond the initial announcement, not much has been there. Shout out for Detours from Elliot. I would love to see that released. I don't know why they don't release it. We can all laugh at Star Wars, I think, most of us. And
Yeah.
the YouTubers, maybe. Although this is going out on YouTube, does that make me a YouTuber? Uh,
Yeah, you are.
but yes, I don't know what would the trailer in August be a Skeleton Crew trailer, for example, and that would be out the second half of the year. But then you're talking about almost a 12-month wait before you see any more Star Wars live action on Disney Plus. Do you risk losing subscribers? I think.
Oh, very much. I mean, I can't imagine anything else coming either.
Bad Batch, would it be more Bad Batch?
Bad Batch, yeah, because
That would be a
they were
possibility.
working on it already during season 1, so I can imagine that has been
Yeah. So
mostly done anyway. So
it's interesting to think about what they could announce next year.
yeah,
But the whole of next year is going to be
yeah.
incredibly interesting in terms of movies and TV and what they do, because this strike looks like it's going to run to at least Christmas. There's really not much movement on either side. Neither side actually even seems keen to a resolution at this point, let alone discussing one. So, interesting
really
times.
unfortunate. Yeah.
What is happening just now, and sadly we're not hearing from the cast and crew, but it is still getting released and we can still talk about it here, is Ahsoka. And this past week we had episode 4, Fallen Jedi, come out, given the description that Hera risks her career to help her friends while Ahsoka and Sabine confront enemies. The first line in the description particularly interests me because, yes, there was a little bit of a storyline with Hera, very little of Hera in the episode. And just the fact that it says she's risking her career, and I kind of feel, does that mean that in the next 3 episodes we're going to see repercussions for her? That maybe removes her from the New Republic. Almost sets her free from the New Republic in a way, so she can have her own unique storyline, perhaps, was kind of my thinking. But I thought it was an interesting line to describe the show when really that doesn't really happen in the episode.
No, not much. I mean, we have that one guy telling her that she has to go to a meeting, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not going to the meeting. I'm doing what I want."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, is that risking your career? I mean, you would have imagined that by everything she has done for the rebellion and for the New Republic. I mean, she would have had enough credits anyway to do something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, Mon Mothma isn't that stuck up and difficult either. I mean, look at all the leeway she's giving to Leia. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's like, yeah, Hera, whatever, do what you want to do. You will be back when we need you anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. But let's take a deep dive into the episode. We'll work our way through the episode. We'll see your thoughts as we work our way through the episode. And it started off with a droid that I'm actually enjoying, actually doing the kind of work that you would expect droids to do. He's there repairing the ship for them. And Sabine and Ahsoka having a debate as to what the next steps are going to be.
With a hefty dose of foreshadowing.
Yeah. At the other opposite end of the planet, we've got Morgan and Balin discussing their plans as well. Because they're pretty much all set to leave and go and find Thrawn.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still wonder why Balin would even care about a Thrawn.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much hinted at with every line that he says. Basically, you can look at it from multiple angles and what is the actual thing that he means to say? Or
Yes.
what is he hinting at? And
I still feel there's more to his character to come out. It's
exactly.
As you say, what's his personal motivation and we'll get to, I guess, when we're going through the episode, but his discussions with Sabine were particularly interesting. He doesn't come across as being invested in
In the Tron Empire,
but
stuff
in
like
the same
that.
hand, the way that he spoke to Sabine about being able to promise to deliver Ezra to her, kind of gave the impression that sometimes we've got to do things in order to achieve the objectives that we have, and we don't necessarily have to like those things. And I kind of thought it maybe foreshadows his storyline a little. The one thing I'm worried about, I guess, for the Balin character is obviously we've got the very sad fact that Ray Stevenson's passed away, and so if Balin exists beyond a first season, we may not see necessarily the conclusion of his storyline, because Ray Stevenson's has been fantastic throughout the series, in my opinion.
Well, the elephant in the room, they can recast.
Yes.
I mean, which will open a whole can of worms, but yeah, then you really have to ask yourself, what would I prefer? A character story not to be finished, or someone else stepping in, honoring the legacy, and continuing?
Yeah, I think that's
And
very true.
that's basically, I mean, I trust Filoni with everything he does, builds to something. Do expect that the next episode will be the fifth one, also due to the premiere in the cinema, that it will be a big, important, story-driven episode. And yeah, I mean, obviously, Ahsoka is dealing with all the guilt about leaving Anakin and stuff like that. So I'm expecting that will be resolved. But besides that, I can imagine that the next episode will also delve a little bit more into Balin and who he was
Yeah,
before the series.
yeah, I get that. So the episode carried on with our ancient Jedi droid fixing the ship, but he gets attacked by
Rock'em robots.
yeah, we'll call them the bad guys. I hate calling them the bad guys because I don't feel like they're particularly bad guys at the moment. But we'll call them that. He gets in a little bit of a droid fight. People will pay good money to watch that kind of thing, I guess. And,
Well, they do on Vendor.
yeah, definitely. And not long
And
before Sabine and Ahsoka join the action, and we
yeah,
get a pretty exciting little fight sequence. Even though we don't know too much about the characters that they're fighting, other than they're the bad guys, the cronies of the bad guys, we'll call them, and it's pretty much determined after the fight that it's time to face the real leaders, and Ahsoka and Sabine go heading off into the woods to hunt them down, I guess. And then we got crossed over to the scene that we kind of described earlier, the very quick scene where Hera basically determines that she's going to ignore the instructions from the senators and she's going to go and help her friends anyway. And brings along her child, because that's the thing you do if you're heading into battle.
exactly. Yeah.
And she gets a little bit of support as well. She's got some fighters backing her up that are going to join her in the I guess the
Among the
attempted defense, I guess, of Ahsoka and Sabine, and finding out what Morgan is up to. Mr. Booker, giving me the perfect word, protagonists. That's what we'll call them, the protagonists. And here they are. They're back with their Night Sister mythical kind of little ancient kind of enclave on the side of the cliff with we're going to call it a tracking ball to hunt down Thrawn. And she ignites it again. And we do get some great shots. There was some beautiful, beautiful shots in this episode, I thought. And the map is recreated, and we get, I guess, for the site the first time, almost like a countdown kind of. I kind of felt it was a little bit Stargate.
Chevron 1 locked.
Yeah, basically, and it was kind of like this is going to be what we use the the plot point to create the tension throughout the episode. It's almost like they're
Yeah.
locking in the coordinates. Very slow computer.
Yeah.
But it starts counting them down. Something I didn't notice, Matt's pointing out, there was a photo of a Kanan on the Ghost dashboard. I missed that.
Yep, there was. There was. But it's really terribly
Yeah.
dark and not that. I mean, you can't even see if it was an animation drawing, a screenshot, or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did notice it too.
Kingdom of Weird on YouTube also pointing out that Brendan Wayne was one of the X-Wing pilots as well.
Yes, he
know him
was.
as, the physical representation of Mando.
Yeah, he was the last one in the sequence.
Yeah. And Sabine and Ahsoka eventually come across Shin in Marok. And they have...
And all your Marok theories were wrong.
Well, on last week's episode, I was almost right. I said he was Snoke, but he just turned out he was Smoke. Just one letter out.
Exactly. I mean, and with your accent, I mean,
Yeah.
probably most people haven't heard the difference.
Yeah. And in the night, and I've got this thing about modern filmmaking where everything has to be shot in the dark and things hidden, but this kind of actually worked quite well for the lightsaber fight, I thought, where we had Ahsoka facing up with Marok and Sabine facing up against Shin, which I get they were. Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The fight starts, and what is the first thing she does? Go to the Mandalorian weapons.
Yes,
Forget all
yeah.
about lightsaber. Nope.
I get while they chose the parents based on previous actions in previous episodes, but I thought it was interesting that Ahsoka didn't go up against the Jedi, and it would have made more sense for Sabine to go up against the Inquisitor, I kind of felt. But they did it the opposite way around, obviously harking back to previous plot points where Ahsoka's faced Marok before and Shin's faced Sabine. And whilst all that's fighting going is on, Balin and Morgan are overseeing the coordinates being calculated for finding Thrawn and Ezra. Eventually, Sabine did reach for her lightsaber, and we had quite an interesting little lightsaber fight going on. And some great shots as well, where you had Ahsoka and Marok in the distance as well. And
Yeah, it was a good choreography with that fight.
almost got the helicopter lightsaber that I think everyone hates.
Yeah, he almost flew away too, like Mary Poppins.
Yeah. And Marok didn't survive too long and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Which was very... I kind of made the point that there was a few things in this episode that were very reminiscent of Lost. Smoke monsters, ancient devices that calculate time and space, and purgatory as well, which we'll get to. Sabine and Shin still competing. Quite an interesting contested fight. And we also went back to Balin as well, because after Ahsoka had defeated Marok, she went to face him. And,
Do you also get the sense that they maybe have a shared history, Ahsoka and Balin?
I kind of got that
Or
feeling.
they share something, I think.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling. They had kind of like a interesting way in which they encountered each other, and he felt almost very calm about it, almost as if he'd foreseen it. It was almost like it was his destiny, and he kind of knew that. Kind of got that kind of vibe from him, and just the way that they kind of armed themselves, it was almost like a reluctance to fight against each other. It was almost very formal and respectful. And I kind of thought, I don't know, neither of them are technically Jedi in a way, and both of them have left the Order. And well, he didn't necessarily leave the Order; the Order's been destroyed around him, and he's trying to find his place in the world. I think.
Unless he did, because he did said he lost his faith,
Yeah,
so he could have left himself
that's
at
true.
one point.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that maybe their stories are quite similar, but they've just had slightly different journeys that have taken them on slightly different trajectories. And there was almost like there wasn't like a hatred or an anger towards each other. It was almost like a respect, and you can kind of see it in the way that they stand and face each other. And whilst that's all going on, the clock continued to tick down.
And what you said about respect for each other, that Balin shows that later too for Sabine,
Yes,
because
yeah,
she was like, "I can kill her," and Balin was like, "No, we respect the enemy, and that's not going to happen."
yeah. And we got an interesting competition between Ahsoka and Balin as well. And because we all know Ahsoka, a great reputation for her lightsaber work, and Balin a very much different style. And whilst their fight's going on, Sabine and Shin continued their combat. Shin appeared to be getting the upper hand, and Sabine kind of pulled a Mandalorian trick on her by firing the darts at her. And in retaliation, Shin kind of released, all I can call it's kind of like a smoke bomb, which allowed her to,
Each Batman.
yeah, allowed her to retreat and almost go back to Balin. And I wonder if there was a connection between them through the Force, and she realised that maybe he needed her help. Because Ahsoka had kind of gotten the upper hand a little bit. She'd recovered the map ball, but it was searing hot when she picked up, so she drops it. And at that point, they're back lightsaber fighting. Shin appears, and this is the interesting bit in the episode for me, and I don't know if this has appeared in animation before, but Ahsoka became incredibly angry at that. I think it was, she assumed that Sabine had died, I think, at the hands of Shin. And she kind of force grabbed her and threw her against a kind of brick wall, is the only way to describe it.
Well, and as you said this, I'm racking my brain to imagine an angry Ahsoka. I don't think that was quite seen in either the Clone Wars or Rebels. I can remember that we had a dark side Ahsoka vision in the Mortis episode, which was a little bit similar, but other than that, I'm drawing a blank. But
Yeah.
maybe the people who are listening can correct me if I'm wrong, but...
And it kind of just gave me the impression that she's not that too different from Balin, and without much work, she could have followed the same kind of path that he has. And it also kind of foreshadows, is she too different from her master and Anakin either? She has that element within her, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yes. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. And I think, because in the animation, Ahsoka basically ended up being picked up by Bail Organa, joining the rebels, becoming Fulcrum and stuff like that. And Balin is basically, I think, when he left or had to leave the Order because it crumbled around him, he was picked up by probably by Morgan, and Morgan obviously has, as a bad guy, the bad influence on him,
Yeah.
like Bail Organa had the good influence on Ahsoka.
And I'm kind of remembering back to Morgan's first appearance in Star Wars, and she had the spear, the Mandalorian spear, and I wondered perhaps she bettered Balin in a fight, because obviously,
Yes.
that spear could take combat against a lightsaber. So there's that possibility as well. There's an interesting background I think we've yet to discover about Balin and his journey and how he's gotten to where he is. And I'm intrigued to learn more about him. But it's almost as straight away as Ahsoka exhibited that kind of anger. Sabine actually turned up. Interestingly, as you pointed out earlier, pistol drawn again. So always our first indication seems to go with the Mandalorian side of her rather than the Jedi. And she witnesses Balin effectively defeat Ahsoka, and he sends Ahsoka over the cliff edge, presumably into the sea. Interestingly, the strike that forced her over the edge was blade to blade, so she didn't receive a mortal hit from him, and we don't actually see her die either, and that may play an important part in what we see later in the episode. Sabine, of course, seeing that, obviously thinks the worst and thinks that's Ahsoka gone.
No.
Exactly.
A good Star Wars fashion.
Yeah. But immediately, Balin's back to this very formal stance, very calm, and he kind of lowers his blade, enters into a dialogue with Sabine, and basically gives her the offer that we hear so often in Star Wars of join me. Basically, if you want to find Ezra, I'm your path to her. Give me the map. And some great acting between Natasha and Rey in this scene as well. I kind of really loved this scene. It was beautifully done. And she sort of surrenders the map. Shin recovers from her smack against the wall and force chokes Sabine, and then kind of gets stopped by Balin because we're all in the same team now. And this was the kind of interesting scene for me again, in that we don't know what his goal is, but his goal seems to be, look, we've all got similar kind of aims, and we've, and Ezra's, Sabine's one of us now. She just wants to find Ezra, and it felt like that doesn't interest him at all. So if she wants to come along, great, she can find Ezra. It's not going to affect me and what my purpose is. It's kind of how I interpreted it. I don't know what you thought.
Well, I am curious right now, because why would Baden care to bring her along in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't care about Ezra, he has the map.
And that kind of
He
what
knows
makes me...
where to go. So basically, Sabine isn't needed.
And that's kind of what makes me think this. He's not necessarily bad, because he's like, I don't have to kill you. You want an objective, I can help you deliver. It's not going to affect what I want to do. Come along, if you want to come along. So it's interesting. And obviously they complete the sort of countdown, and they get all the coordinates loaded up in the computer. And Balin then destroys the map, so no one's going to be following them. And but it did make me think, how are they getting back? So there may well have to be a storyline as to how they get back. I don't know. The weird kind of hyperspace kind of ring.
Lovely prequel-ish design.
I kind of thought it was going to be like a Stargate ring, so it would power up and create this force field, and something would have to pass through it. But it appears that the ring's going to travel itself, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, but we have seen it in Attack of the Clones.
Have you? Okay. Oh, well, we saw it again in terms of the Jedi.
Yes, that's how we got to Camino, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but then there was a ship in the middle of it, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought. There's going to have to be a ship, like a Star Destroyer or something, go through the ring. Sure. That's kind of what I thought it was going to be. Obviously not. And everybody boards up. Sabine there in handcuffs, but fairly compliant as well. They activate the ring just as our... I keep wanting to call them rebels, because they really are. They're just terrible people that overthrow the democratic empire. But familiar faces in amongst the fighters as well. Some of them destroyed, some of them survive. And I guess they've made their journey at this point. We don't really see it disappearing into the horizon, but we'll assume that they're now in the. I keep wanting to call it the unknown regions, but it's not really getting called that, I don't think.
Nope, it's a separate galaxy, so one of the 7 that we know that exist.
Yeah. Paul pointing out. I'm guessing he's talking about. Let me go back a few frames.
Oh, the Rogue One Death Star cloud, yes.
This one. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
See that? That's a good
one. Yeah.
Matt also pointing out he was expecting a Star Destroyer ship to load into it as well. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If I fast forward again. So a kind of rebel fleet that was there to rescue everyone kind of arrived and did very little. Achieved nothing, really. Everybody's gone apart from Ahsoka. Well, apart from the droid, I guess he's still back in the ship. So there's very little people in need of rescuing. At this point, it's a wasted mission. Hera's probably going to get in trouble in the next episode based on the show description. She's lost lives, achieved nothing. And then we get this shot that shows the Night Sister kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like Stonehenge type construction there on the edge of the cliff, and we see the sea where Ahsoka had fallen into. And we transition from the sea into space, and we kind of see Ahsoka's arm, and then we see an unconscious Ahsoka, and she wakes up, and the next kind of screenshot kind of tells us where she is, because followers of animation like yourself, Sander, will know this particular shot very well.
But I do have to admit, I mean, it is so beautifully colored blue that it really goes from the sea to, or whatever this eternal blue is now. But at one point it does. I mean, she has. It's almost here like she has puddles below her feet.
Yeah.
So they really do keep the sea motif going.
Yeah.
With Luke.
So,
yeah, I mean, look how beautiful this looks. I mean,
as it's formerly known, the world between worlds, and as Anakin Crespin points out on YouTube, it kind of reminds him of the end of Rise of Skywalker, where Rey passes out and goes to this other realm of stars, where all the Jedi kind of reach out to her. And I guess this is kind of where they're kind of going. With this, it's kind of this ethereal kind of place. Literally a world between worlds. It's is it purgatory? I kind of keep referring it to being like Lost. Paul also points out another Lost looking shot there is the eyes from above as she awakes. So there's like a lot of callbacks to Lost in this episode, I kind of feel like. And I guess it's kind of this world where they're not dead, but they're able to more easily speak to the dead, and they're able to see alternative paths based on the decisions they take as to where they could go. Am I kind of right there in terms of what the animation has kind of taught us so far?
That's about right, yeah.
And
and it's basically from you can look into the past or the future. You can learn from it, but you can't change anything from it. Everything that has happened will happen, and always have been happened.
Yeah. Has Ahsoka been here before, or was it just Ezra?
Yes. Oh no, she has been here before too. So she does knows.
She knows where she is and knows the sort of the powers of this place before.
Yeah.
And we kind of get a little close up of Ahsoka's face, and there's some whispering going on. And if you've got the subtitles on, you'll see that it says that there's Snips is mentioned, which was our original nickname.
Yeah, I really had to laugh at that. I mean, it's so clearly Anakin, it's so clearly Hayden, And then the callback to Snips, and it says mysterious voice.
Yes.
Hello, Snips. I'm
Yeah.
like nothing mysterious about it.
Yeah. And
And then there it is.
the final shot of the show. A very young looking Anakin.
Yes.
Little bit too much cosmetic CGI makeup for my liking. I'm kind of the mindset that we all know Hayden Christensen. We all know he's aged since the prequel trilogy because time ages us all. Would it have been too offensive just to have? Yeah, would it have been offensive to have him there? A little bit heavy makeup on him. I don't think it needed the CGI work that they've kind of gone to, and
No.
sometimes it works. It worked really well in Indiana Jones. I didn't think it worked so well here.
No.
But I was speaking to Neil from Star Wars Fan Fun Day, and as he pointed out, they've kind of got this misty kind of element to his faces, which is kind of what they had in the animation as well. So he kind of felt it was kind of like a callback to that as well.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, because the first few times that Ezra had contact with Yoda, he didn't saw Yoda. It was the first time it was a bunch of glowing bugs. Then it was a Yoda that looked more like the original Rolf McQuarrie concept art.
Yeah.
And then it was the Yoda we all know, basically. So that is a way to explain this, basically. I mean,
Were you happy to see him back? Because it's probably been the world's worst kept secret that he was going to be in Ahsoka. So
yeah, I knew it was God. Well, actually, um, I don't follow rumors and spoilers that much, but this one I've heard.
yeah,
But
I'm pretty much the same. I try to
yeah,
avoid the spoilers, but in terms
but
of
they said something a little bit different. I mean, they didn't said he would be in the world between worlds. It was always a Clone Wars era flashback.
yeah, I think maybe
Which,
the
of course,
shocking thing is people weren't expecting it in this episode. They were maybe expecting it next week
in next, yeah,
because everything's kind of been built to sort of promote episode 5. Like we even had like a little Master and Apprentice little, I guess you call it a documentary, little clip show came out this week, a 7-minute clip show, which I thought was total waste of time, and just didn't offer anything extra. I didn't feel to the whole thing, and it was the kind of thing you would just throw out on YouTube from the official account. I thought it didn't warrant a Disney Plus placing at all. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see him because I loved him in Obi-Wan. I'm not excited from the whole point of view that they're master and apprentice, because obviously I didn't watch the animation, so I don't really have that connection between that two characters. So I'm interested to see the dynamic that they have and how they play off each other.
Yeah. As I said, I don't do spoilers that much, but I have looked a little bit into it, what people think will happen in episode 5. I would recommend to a lot of people to watch the recommended Ahsoka, Clone Wars, and Rebels episodes, especially the Clone Wars ones, that Disney Plus put up, because they put an Ahsoka recommended episode list, and I think that will really come in handy for the next episode.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever spoiler I may have read that may or may not happen, I mean, there will be some callbacks, even more to stuff that some people may not have seen, like you. But then again, it will be Filoni, so that's probably a given anyway that will happen.
Yeah.
But it's also Filoni that he does everything that he does for a reason, and people in general doesn't get too lost.
Yeah. I'm interested because a lot of fans that haven't followed the animation not going to know much about the world between worlds, how far they push the boundaries of it, and really push the envelope in terms of what could have been, what could happen in the future, really how much foretelling, how much side story do the push on this? Because I've always got this thing. I never want Star Wars to become a multiverse kind of thing where it's got multiple timelines and all this kind of garbage going on that you see in other franchises. I love the one and conducive storyline, and I think it should always kind of maintain that. So I always have this kind of feeling from what I've heard about the World Between Worlds where it offers alternative perceptions. I hope that doesn't lead to something larger other than I kind of think we mentioned it before this show, but Scrooge, but a different Scrooge, the original Scrooge, the Christmas Carol, where you're shown what could have been. I kind of hope it sticks at that.
Well, so far it has been that way. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that it will stay that way. And yeah, depending on running time and whatever they have to tell, I'm not even sure how much of it they can show in the next episode, but that's how it always has been in animation, and probably how they will keep it.
Yeah.
Even with Indiana Jones 5, the moment I've heard, they're doing time travel, I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah. And then people going, they will erase Crystal Skull, Mutt will never have been born, and stuff like that will happen. I'm like, no, that's not what I want to see. I just want to see Indiana Jones influence and witness whatever something in the past, and then go back and done. Nothing changed. Everything happened as it always have. That's basically what we got.
Do you think next episode is really just going to focus in on Ahsoka, Anakin, and whoever else you may possibly meet in the World Between Worlds, or do you think we're going to maybe see the introduction of Thrawn, Ezra, or do you think that's going to be held back towards the end of the series?
I'm guessing most of the episodes will be Anakin and Ahsoka talking and experiencing things to keep it as spoiler-free as possible.
Yeah.
I do expect that at some point, they will cut a few times between Hera and Yuan on the planet, I'm guessing. Just to remember that Hera is still there.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm guessing Ahsoka will return to the planet, and then to Hera and Yuan. And at that point, I'm guessing that we're halfway through the episode, and that we then move to the ship arriving at Peridea, and then not quite seeing Thrawn, but seeing that they have arrived, and that at least the journey to the planet is complete.
Yeah.
And maybe they do end with Thrawn looking up and seeing the ship arrive or something like that, but not much.
Yeah. Paul kind of saying there kind of what I kind of want what the World Between Worlds to be is a place set for knowledge, story, exposition. That's kind of what I kind of want it to be.
Yes.
And Anakin, so next episode is where Ahsoka finally deals with her various expletives. And I get that. I think fan of the animation. I think next week's episode is going to be for fans of the animation more than anybody else, because I feel it's going to be a deep dive into the history of Ahsoka. As a character who hasn't really been the lead character as such in this series so far. I've kind of felt that Baylan and Sabine have really led this series so far. And it's maybe time for Ahsoka to put her place and mark her place in the sand here a little bit and be the series lead. I'm fascinated as to see what they do with Thrawn, because it's like, why are the remnants of the Imperials so invested in Thrawn returning? So when he does return, he kind of has to do something significant to justify it all. Yeah. So
but I'm interested in what they do there. We have just a few episodes left anyway.
Which makes me think that are we literally just going to see his return into the galaxy and it ends there?
Probably.
Because otherwise you kind of have to, he has to have like a destroy a New Republic base type thing. He has to do something, I think, to put fear into you. You get to emulate this guy. Wrong side, that side.
Yeah.
The Emperor, he's got to do something
Stop our returns.
Emperor level.
Yeah.
But Sander, it's been great having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Discussing Ahsoka. People can head over to fathertracks.com to see your guide into episode 4 and various Easter eggs and little things that you may not have noticed when you watched the show first couple of times, and check that out before you see episode 5 and see what you missed. Keep it on fathertracks.com as well every day, across our social media at fathertracks as well, Instagram, X, and Facebook. We'll have all the Star Wars news every single day as well. We'll be back next Sunday, 9 p.m. UK time, and we'll be discussing episode 5, which hopefully is going to be significant, and any other Star Wars news that breaks and comes out over the next week. Thank you everyone for your comments. Thanks once again, Sander. Great having you on the show. We'll look forward to having you again on the show again soon. And good night, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FanthaTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow FanthaTracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.